Greetings. Welcome to Elm City Lit Fest podcast. I'm Ife Michelle Gardine. This is Shaw McAllister. We are part of the Lit Fest team. Elm City Lit Fest is a celebration of literature, literary arts, and literary artists of the African diaspora. And this evening, we are so happy to talk to one of New Haven's own. New Haven is the Elm City. New Haven, Connecticut. We are happy to talk to one of the Elm City's own, Stacy Graham-Hunt, about her book, Processing Pain. Processing Pain. The theme, this is Women's History Month, and I wanted to address one of the themes. A theme for this show in particular was how Black women cope, and how in her book Processing Pain, Stacy is very open and raw about how the things that she's going through, the things that she's gone through in life to get to this. Because as Black women, people always say we're strong Black women and we're this and that. We go through some stuff and we have resilience and we learn how to cope, but we still have to process our pain, and there's some things we carry. And Sha?
Stacy. Just for context for folks, I've never really had a chance to really speak one-on-one with Stacy. I've seen you in meetings, but I've never had the chance to really have a full moment and chop it up with you. But reading this book, I feel like we've chopped it up. We've gone to dinner. We've hung out. We've gone on sleepovers. So this says personal essays, and you really get the I'm messing up the word, but y'all know what I'm saying. Of that, like, this truly are your experiences from a very open and vulnerable place. Was this book, in a sense, a release for you?
Yes. It started. I started sharing essays on Facebook. I was actually going through a breakup at the time, and part of me, when I was just kind of mad anyway about the breakup. And it was kind of like, well, how did I get to this place? And then I just started writing, and I just took a risk, and I shared one of the essays on Facebook. And it was the first one about my great-grandfather passing away and having Alzheimer's and experiencing that as a 9-year-old. And, he's sick. I knew he was sick, but then he died, and I didn't know what that meant. And, we were playing together one day, and then the next day I was at his funeral. So that was the first essay that I shared. And it was like 5:00 in the morning. And I was like, I'm going to delete this. I don't know why I'm oversharing on Facebook like this. But then as soon as I was like getting the confirmation to delete, someone decided to like it. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'll leave it up here. And then that gave me the courage to share another story. And then like every week, people were like responding and commenting and having their own conversations about my experiences and how they affected them. So it turned into like a little community every Thursday morning. And so then a few people suggested that I put the essays together in a book. And so that's what I did.
And you opened the book, I believe, with the essay about your granddad. Is that? And I think that's something important to talk about, what grieving looks like for children. And I feel like parents don't really allot the whole life after death situation to you. So it really is, you're visiting your loved one and then you're seeing them in a casket. That was a very similar situation I had with me and my godfather. Like, I was going to see him all the time. And then the trips just kind of slowed down. And then I saw him in this casket. Like, okay, well, how did we get here? What's happening? Where did my friend go? And then it's like, well, what did I do something? Like, why'd you leave me? So I think it makes me wonder about how parents, the Lord has not blessed me in that way. So, which is cool. Fantastic. But do you think children can handle that conversation of death and what it looks like?
So the interesting thing is I went to visit Booker T. Washington School. One of the teachers there asked me to, just talk about what it meant to be a writer. And I was trying to like shuffle through my stories, like what can children, I was going to a 4th grade class. So I'm like, what happened to me when I was 9? And so that was the story I chose. And so I read it to them, and it turned into a whole grief counseling session. And I was not prepared for that. The children were like, my father died, my mother died, my grandmother died. And, the kids are crying. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need more time. We only have like 40 minutes. But I was surprised at how ready they were to talk about it, and how once they had this space to talk about it, they were ready. I mean, they were ready to talk about it. And it was me who was caught off guard. They weren't. It was me. But they were ready. And I think sometimes we underestimate children and their ability to express their emotions. I think sometimes we're not ready. Like I wasn't ready. So we tell them, not right now, or stop crying, or, but they're ready. I think children are ready.
That's a fact. You figure they absorb everything. These kids are more tech savvy than most adults. And for someone who's observing a lot of the time, you figure they should have an opinion created. It's that I think their mind is a little bit more depth than we give them credit for.
And also, I feel like children have that raw, emotion. They're not so, jaded by all of their experiences. Like if they feel sad, they'll tell you. Like my son, he's 3. I feel sad. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm happy. The other day I was frustrated about something. He's like, Mom, just be happy. Like, and he's trying to, he's getting his toys and he's trying to make me smile. I just think that they might not always have the words for how they're feeling, but I think they are very in touch with happiness and sadness and joy and what that looks like and what it feels like. And they want people around them to be happy and I feel like I express myself to him more because he gives me the space to do that. So it kind of works both ways. Like he's so open to emotions and talking about emotions that sometimes I find myself like talking to him about how I feel.
It's like children will teach you something. It's like, you are absolutely right. We should be talking about this. But thank you for setting this space.
Yes. Yeah, he's like my little counselor.
As most children are, and I feel like children are there to guide you. I think we get wrapped up and we have to show them what's the way, but this is a two-way street. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a writer? I know in the book you had a group, you got an internship the way I've never seen no one else get an internship. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your experience was working where you were working?
Sure. So I started out as a business major in a 5-year MBA program. And the interesting thing is that it was to go to Florida A&M University. And I originally was going to be a like radio, media, television major. But then I got this scholarship to be a business major. So I was like, okay, I'll do it for the money. And I heard that business majors made a lot of money. But I found myself like I did okay in the program, but I wasn't really like engaged. And I found that when I started doing internships, like at corporations and stuff, I just really wasn't into it. And so a lot of I think you're talking about Bad Boy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of like my experience has been tied to music. So music has always, because I went to like predominantly white schools, I always felt like music kept me connected to my Blackness or to like my old friends from Dixwell Avenue, because we could always talk about music. Like we might not have had the same vacation schedule. We might not have had the same stuff we were learning in school, but we could always talk about music. So I always felt like no matter what I was doing, even now, like music is such a big part of who I am. So when I was in college, I was watching Making the Bands. I love that show. And So I would watch the show and I would write down everybody's names. I said, I'm gonna work there. I was determined that I was gonna work at Bad Boy. Like, I don't know, I just from watching the show. So I anytime one of the executives came on the screen, I would write their names down and I would send them my resume. And no one would write me back. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna send them something else. So then I think the next thing I did, so I sent them my resume, then I sent them like a thank you card with my resume in it. Like, thank you for reading my resume. And by the way, here it is again. And so then no one wrote me back. So then I made like these bookmarks and I put my resume on these like bookmarks and I sent them to them. And I was like, if they don't write back, I'm going to make a shirt. I'm going to put I was just so determined to work there. And it just became like something I was really interested in because I wasn't really that interested in my classes, but this became like just a side project. So then finally someone called back and they were like, it was from the finance department, and they said that they wanted me to, they wanted to talk more in an interview. And I was like, yeah, right. So, I mean, even though I was putting forth all this effort, I still was surprised. So when I got there, the funny thing is when I got there, someone else from another department was like, you're Stacy Graham-Hunt? Like, I've been getting all of your junk mail. Like it was me. Yeah. So that's how I got the internship there. But it's funny because everyone there had like a crazy story like that. So one guy used to drive from Albany every week to go talk to someone in like the production department. It was just everyone. I felt like everyone I knew there had a crazy story about how they got there.
But I think that's a real life example of you want something, you have to go get it. Like truly manifesting your destiny. Like, okay, you can pray about it, you can write it down, but you got to put a little work into this. And your work panned out for you in the best way. You were once watching something and now you are there on the scene.
Yes. And I mean, I think once I was watching like Will Smith on YouTube one day, and he said, you have to make a decision. So many times, like, we don't make a decision, and so we get nothing because we haven't decided. Even if we make the wrong decision, at least we know not to go that way again. But if we just make a decision and decide to stick with that decision and to like take actions for that decision, then we will manifest whatever it is that we want.
Because like you have to, you're too deep into it at this point. Holy moly! So getting into your book. You have one essay called "Grieving Someone I Never Met," and there was it's funny we're talking about Will Smith. I wrote down a quote that you have in there. It was like how we all felt when they changed the actress for Aunt Viv's character on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And for many people, me included, that was like a heartbreak moment. I was like, you're gonna act like that's not the same lady, and we know that's not the same lady. What do you mean? You just can't replace what's going on here.
They didn't even have the same demeanor. They didn't look alike. Nothing
at all. It was wicked.
It was a betrayal. That's what it was.
It truly was. You're right. Let's call it what it is. This was a betrayal. They tried to pull an okie doke on us. But in this essay, it's about your grandmother, correct? Your great grandmother.
My mother's mother, my grandmother, yes.
Your grandmother. And it's interesting because you point out that folks would just like, everyone loved Minnie. That Minnie was this phenomenal person, and you speak about how it's like, well, you would have wanted to met her, and it's like not having that chance and hearing all these great things and seeing these pictures. I feel like in Black families or anyone's family, really, it's always that one loved one. I had an Aunt Minnie too. I didn't get to know her either. So, but they're very similar. There was always be like a picture. People's like, oh, Minnie was just the most delightfulest thing. She was just happy all the time. And you hear that enough. It's like, okay, well, I want to meet Minnie too. Like, I want to hang out with this loved one, and everyone has all these stories and you don't have them. It's like, okay, well, can you all talk about this amongst yourselves?
Right. And I felt like I knew her. Like, they talked about her so much and so positively and so concretely that I felt like I knew her, and I like would dream about her. But I didn't know her. And I remember my dad saying, because my grandfather was a very good cook, but he was like, she cooked even better than your grandfather, and you'd be fat now if she was still living. And it was just like she was missing. That's what it felt like. She was missing. It like, where is she? Like, how can I access her?
Right.
Yeah, it just felt like she was missing, or like I just came just a hair too late.
Like I missed you
Yeah,
on the
just
way
missed
out.
it. Yeah.
Holy moly. But how can you give a little insight for folks who may be experiencing something similar of how it was grieving or missing someone that you haven't necessarily met?
I think talking about, I found joy in talking about her with people who were willing to talk about her. I didn't find that my grandfather talked about her much, but my mom talked about her, my dad talked about her, and I liked looking at pictures of her. And her sister, one of my great aunts, she always carried around a picture of her so I could ask her questions. So it was kind of like it's been kind of like putting the pieces together like a puzzle. Like, well, what's she like? You know, was she like this? Or, you know, I know she liked to go to church, and I know she baked well, and I know that, you know, she was a very benevolent kind of person. So it was almost like doing some kind of like mystery, solving some kind of mystery, and then trying to find out, like, how am I like her, and what have I carried? What traits have I carried from her? So that way I can carry her with me, even though I haven't met her directly. It's still finding out, like, putting the pieces together and then taking what I can with me so that she continues to live on.
It's an interesting point, because it's like when you think about your ancestors and folks like your grandparents, it's like, it's our role to see where they fit in us, and what parts of them that we can highlight. Because there was one part in the book you said in this particular essay that she was supposed to be the grandma that was a grandma, because you said your other grandma, you have to call her Evelyn. It's like, okay, well, it's not that same old school grandma concept.
Yeah, no, this was the old school grandma. This was the one that would bake for you and, you know, fatten you up and take you to church with her and give you the mints in the pew. Yeah,
and you had the candies in the story. You had that in your book too. And the way you describe things in your writing is so clear, and it's so your writing is so relatable. It doesn't lack in vernacular vocabulary, but it's very captivating, because it feels like it's like someone sitting next to you on this journey as you take them through your memory. Like, your writing is very phenomenal in that way.
Thank you.
No, of course, you can tell when folks are practicing their craft, and when you're writing about something that's passionate, it's undeniable. And throughout this whole book, it's like, I just feel like we're close.
We could be.
We could be, without a doubt. I think we should be. And then there's one essay called "Where's Your Mom?" And where's your mom? It hit home, given that Women's History Month. And as a person who has lost their mom, it's everything that's mom related. I find it, I don't know, it hits me a little different these days. But there was one line in it where you said she didn't reschedule or postpone, she just canceled. And that hits different. And having experienced that as well, it's like, okay, so what's the problem here? What is it? It really makes you can go into questions of, is it me, or is it things like that? But I feel like as children, we're not children anymore, but given, in the parent-child dynamic, there are things that our parents are going through or have been through that they haven't healed from. And we're catching the reactions of that, the effects of that. But that's not our monkey to carry. That's not our situation. And reading that and just reading the story, the dynamic is interesting. And I wanted to ask you, how do you keep your joy? Because there are a lot of things with having someone who's like as close to like a parent, and for that relationship to be very interesting within itself. It seems throughout the book, though, so you've always put your best foot forward about it. And I know at some point I need that as well for my other parent.
So I still struggle with that. My mother and I don't know if she read the story, but she knows the story exists. So she did reach out to me, and I think that my children have brought us closer because she wants to have a relationship with my children because she's their grandmother. So that has brought us, back talking more regularly. I know that she still, like you said, she has her own things that she goes through, and I try to be more like forgiving. I was very not forgiving and very angry about it. Like, how come you're not here? But now that I'm a mom, I can kind of like understand a little better. Like, okay, she has her own things that she's going through. I can't be the center of her universe. So I try to be like more patient and more understanding. And if she needs space, I try to give her space. I try not to, ask her a lot of questions or push her. Because I'm nosy and I'm like, where are you? Where are you? I want to know everything. But she's more introverted than I am. And so I have to respect her in that way. So I'm still learning. I'm not great at this yet, but it's a learning process, and I'm trying to just, give her space. And, when we feel like connecting, then we connect. And I try to be very present with her. So if she feels like being around and I feel like being around and we're getting along, then I try to let it just be that moment. And I try, if she feels like being away, I try to, or if I need space, I just try to honor that also. So it's just taking it like one moment at a time.
Right. Meeting folks where they are. Because I feel like as we get older, our parents or parental figures or folks who have filled that role for us, I think we are moving out of kind of not this fantasy idea of them, but understand that they're a person too.
Yeah.
And some folks, someday you may be feeling it, but then someday you just got to like really put yourself in a bubble, because we put ourselves in bubbles. And I applaud you for saying present, because I think that was something I'm lacking, that if I don't, I'm thinking, okay, well, why do I need to be present when you haven't been present? But I want you to be present. So I got to give what I'm asking for.
Jay-Z says something like, our time together is our time together and our time apart is our time apart. So,
Bars.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how I go into the relationship. And I also learned that just because our relationship may be a little strained at times, I appreciate, like, she has sacrificed a lot for me. And so when somebody can do that, it's weird. Like when somebody can make those sacrifices for you and then still not be emotionally connected to you the way that they are. I mean, that's a different kind of, love language.
Yeah.
And so understanding that she shows love differently than I do, or she gives love in a way differently than I expect to receive it. I have to understand that too, because I know the love is there because she did so much for me. Like, she worked very hard for me, and she put me in private school, and she made sure I went to dancing school, and she took care of me, and she made sure, I had nice clothes and I was clean and I ate. And even now, like, her way of showing love is like she brings gifts, and she gets on me about the way I eat, and she makes sure I eat healthy, and she nags me about this and that and that. And I know that's her way of showing love, and I might not always be ready to receive that, but I have to know and understand that the love is there. It's just I have to realize that that's her way of showing love also.
And what love looks like for different folks. You just have so many groovy important points that stick out, because I think we imagine love is like, this traditional relationship is like hugging and calling and this and that. But for a lot of our people, especially Black people, that older Black generation, they showed love through providing. They showed love that you had a roof over your head, you had food, that they're giving you everything they didn't have. They may not be able to show that and reflect that emotionally, but it's there. And I think sometimes that'll make us look outside of ourselves and we have to kind of open our lens a little bit and be unique to what we're looking at.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it shows, even when no one can be upset with the cards they're dealt. I mean, you can, but how it is how it is. Nobody can. You come into this world how you come into it with the situations that you come into. but one of your next stories after the Where's Your Mom story is Corey's mom. And you have a quote that says, although I resented the absence of my mother, I've had so many phenomenal women come into my life and show me how to be a stand-up woman. Mm-hmm. And like, I had to sit back because I think I felt that on some, we do cuss here, but I try not to sometimes.
It's okay.
I felt that on some real shit because it's like, that's what happens. I think that's like, God will set it up like, okay, this is what I need you. This is what I need you to have primarily because I'm trying to mold you to a certain type of person. But to fill in those gaps, here are these cycles of women, whether it's in school, whether it's an auntie, whether it's someone who can fill that place or give you that love that you may not see from who you may want it from. So can you talk about some of those phenomenal women and stand-up women in your life?
Yeah, so I think when I was in high school, I had my god sister, and we still talk to this day. Her name is Carla, and
hey, Carla.
She came into my life like when my parents were splitting up, and my grandmother had just died, and so my home life was changing. But she was like a very stable person for me, and she still is in my life to this day. And we're we are very close. And who else? I guess there's been like so many. Right now, I would say there's a woman named Annie, and I talked to her. She's kind of like an elder, and she got me through some tough times. I was married and got divorced, and my husband, he was very sick at one time, and she just taught me through that whole experience. She taught me how to like listen to God. She taught me how to like, not just pray and ask God for a whole bunch of things, but also like listen. She explained it to me like, you don't just call a friend on the phone and talk and hang up. Like you listen for a response. And so I have carried that with me. I mean, even now, like, even I think it comes out in my writing. Like writing is a way for me to listen and to be closer to the person inside of me, to the spirit inside of me. When I get angry, I write and I see like, okay, it's almost like two selves. Like, okay, like what's going on here? Does this make sense? I just let everything out. I just brain dump. I'm mad because this. It does this. So then I go back. Okay, does this make sense? Is this realistic? Are you putting realistic expectations on the person that you're mad at? So I would say her. I know I'm forgetting people, but I often look at my great aunt Lil. She has been a very stable. We're not as close. I don't see her all the time. We're not in our lives like on a daily basis, but I love going to her house. She's just such a warm, caring person. She's very family oriented. She loves my children. She gives the best hugs. She's a great cook. She's amazing. I think about my friends. I don't know. There's been so many that I could. I'm probably gonna write an essay about this. But when I think of like adult women, I think those. I think about my Aunt Joyce, who she lives in Illinois, and she has been a social justice warrior out there for Black children and education. And she was like the first person in my family that really did that kind of work. And she's just such a strong, positive woman. And she always encouraged me. I think about my great grandmother. We called her Mama. She was like the matriarch of our family. There's just, and when you say fill in the gap, I wouldn't even call it like a gap. I think I was, I don't know. I think I was supposed to, encounter all of these women in this way. So I don't even know if it was a gap that had to be filled, but just, it was, I guess, ordained for me to meet and have these relationships with these women.
Word. You're right. Filling in the gap isn't the correct word. More like nutrients, like folks pouring into, just folks to guide you on your journey. And then the next story that spoke out to me that I literally cracked up because I felt the same way. I felt like I'd been robbed. Like, how could Hillman be fake, Stacy? How could Hillman be fake? How could they take you on this journey of a different world when it's like, what do you mean we can't go? What do you mean? You said it was in Virginia. Like, is it behind Hampton? Is it in the cut? Like,
I just knew I was going to Hillman. I just knew it. And so that was another one. My grandmother, she was the modern Evelyn. She was the modern grandmother. She took me on my first flight, my first airplane ride. We went to a family reunion in Bastrop, Louisiana.
What?
But she was that grandmother. She took me to happy hour with her when I was 9 downtown New Haven. I went out with her and her friends. You know, I ate the hors d'oeuvres while they drank their wine. Like, she was the fly grandmother. She was the let's go shopping kind of grandmother.
A glamour.
Yeah, definitely a glam. She was always the first one who had the newest technology. She was the first one with a microwave and microwave and a camcorder and an answering machine. So, yeah. But I brought her up because I would go to her house on Thursday nights and we would watch the Cosby Show and A Different World, and we'd have these conversations about education and where I was going to go to college. And I told her I'm going to Hillman, and she's like, no, you're not.
It's like, what are you? I am. Are you? You so they won't take me?
So then we talked about Spelman, and she told me I could go to Harvard, and she just told me that I could do anything I wanted to, like, educationally. So,
and I'm making this face because it's getting spooky, Stacy. I have a great aunt named Lil.
Oh, do you?
I wanted to go to Spelman, like nobody's business.
Me
Once
too.
I found out that Hillman was fake, I was like, okay, this is the next best thing. This is where I need to go. Like, it's just man black. That's what I came to Connecticut looking for a Hillman experience. I was wrongly mistaken. One, I went in the wrong direction. I went up. I should have went down.
Oh, that's so funny. I was watching a documentary that said that they had talked about a black college coming to New Haven. But I guess the city officials at that time said it wasn't appropriate.
Yep, that is very true. And they got together. I think that was in Mr. Uhuru Williams' book. I forgot what it was called, but yes, that's a fizzle fact. And you figure there's a large Southern Black population here from the Great Migration, so it's like it would have made sense. There's a high Greek presence here. It would have made perfect sense. But the people wouldn't have been ready for that. Which leads me to another point in your book that really stood out when you were talking about trouble at work. And you said, well, maybe I'll just move. And then it said, I wrote the page down, page 94. Because the page 94 was a ride because I'll read it. So you have, when you try to imagine what it's like to be free from thinking about your skin color or hair texture for a day, and you remember that freedom in a few other countries you visited, but it hurts your soul that you can't have this freedom in your own home, in your own neighborhood, in your own city, state, or country. Maybe I'll just move. I always say to myself, but who will stay and change things? We're already fleeing our own neighborhoods, leaving them in despair and letting gentrification be. And that is sunk because that's truly what's happening. It's like at first there was a white fleet in several cities, but now they're coming back, and now it's like, okay, well, we've made this our home, we've made it our own, and y'all are making us uncomfortable. And it's like, we see folks moving. Many people are going to Georgia, Atlanta, or Houston. But for those of us who are sticking it out, who have chose to stick it out, it's kind of like you're on a mission. It's kind of like you're fighting for your neighborhood in a sense.
You are. And it's interesting the way you put it, because it's like we find value in our neighborhoods, and then they leave, and then the white people leave, and then we leave because we don't find them valuable anymore, and then they come back.
Right.
It's like why didn't we just stay?
It's this never ending conversation, and I feel like now.
And I know.
No, go ahead. No, this is about you.
I was gonna say, and in some cases, I know that we're forced out. I can't think of the word right now, but I know we're forced out, and our properties are bought, and we're told that we have to leave because they're building a school or because whatever reason they have. But in a lot of cases, we left New Haven and decided to move to Hampton or to Cheshire. And now white people are coming back. Eminent domain, thank you. And now white people are coming back and saying, oh, that you were right. That land was valuable. We just didn't like it while you were there.
And that's the skinny and the scoop, right?
Yes.
That's what this is really about. Now that we've moved, you want to come back, but it's like, okay, you're not treating it with the same vigor we were treating it. Like, even if you look at Winchester, folks who are on the Newhall side of Winchester are not going to Fussy Coffee. That's just not what's happening.
Right.
It's just, and those folks don't even come this way. So there's a lot of classism in these in cities across the country, not even just in Connecticut. But I feel a different energy around it now. I feel like the young people who were there, we're not budging. It's like, you're not just going to come in here and make us uncomfortable and make us want to leave again. You forced our parents out. This ain't that. Because at the end of the day, if we just keep being scarcity broken up, where are we going to stay at? Where are we going to settle and be like, okay, this is our neighborhood. This is our neighborhood.
This is our history. This is what we're passing down to our children and their children. We have so much history, but we just keep getting shuffled around and forced out and being told that we don't belong when we do. We do. I wrote an article a few years ago about how I could trace my American heritage back to before my great grandparents and their great grandparents. That made me more American than some people who got here from Italy or wherever in Europe they came from. Like, that makes me more American than you if I can trace back my lineage on this soil. You know what I mean? So we belong here.
As we know, we've built this country.
Yes.
We've spent the most time here, definitely against our will, but we're here and we've been here.
Yes.
So, and I feel like a lot of time that's disregarded by folks who have immigrated to this country. That wasn't our situation. And I hate when it's explained that way. No, people who immigrate somewhere or you migrate somewhere, it's by your own choice. That's not what happened. Don't paint that as that's what happened. That's not the case.
Right.
But our roots are here, and our roots are here deep. Nothing that's here would be here without us.
Absolutely.
So in these last 20 minutes, I wanted to spend this time talking about FAMU.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk about your friends that you had when you got there, your homegirl Taylor, because I think your story about you and Taylor's relationship gives a lot of insight to how you maintain friends when you get older and what it looks like to keep a good friend. Because I've had some friends, like, you lose contact and it's like, wow, that was a really good person in my life. And it's like, it's not like you're going to school every day in high school and you see the same person. I'll see you in class. So this is fine. We don't have to talk right now.
You definitely have to put more effort into it. And, I've lost some connections, and with Facebook and everything, it's become a little bit more easy to rekindle some of those connections. I don't know if we're where we were, but the love is still there. And I hope that when COVID is over, that we can, connect and our kids can meet and play together and we can catch up and maybe make up for lost time. I'm a person that believes the future is always better than the past. So
that's a word.
I believe that we can, make things right and make things better than they were.
Without a doubt. And I think some things happen for a reason. Like people shift during a certain season just to show like one you can do, that you can maintain this on your own, but that when you do get this person back, like, okay, this was great. Maybe we needed this time apart.
So we can appreciate each other and not make the same mistakes. And sometimes space makes you realize who's important and who's not. And when you long for a friendship or you long for a person, it makes you, appreciate them that much more. Because I know if we're ever that close again, I'm not going to let that happen again. So.
And I think it just gave really clear insight to like sisterhood. And I know you're in a sorority as well. Mm-hmm. What sorority are you in?
I'm an Alpha Kappa Alpha.
All right now. Okay. And I think, I'm sorry, I just love it when you see like other Greeks and just like, hey girl, you tell me what's up. I didn't know that because it was in the book, but it never said like who you were a part of in the book. So when you have sisterhoods like Alpha Kappa Alpha that you're already into, and you think about sisterhoods that you develop as friends and being grown, are you noticing that it's not really in number anymore? Now it's like a few good friends that you have.
Absolutely. I feel like my number, because I was always a person with a lot of friends and I was never really part of one group. I was the person that bounced around from group to group. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I have like 3 friends, 3 like really deep friends and now it's like, I only really want people in my life that I can tell the deepest stuff to. Like when I was younger, I didn't care about having a lot of like surface level friends. I still have some of them, but I think of them more as acquaintances now. I don't call everybody friend now, but now I have like 3 friends and I can call them and we could talk to each other. This is me, this girl shaving in the shower, talking to her friend. And the girl's like, I'll call you back. She's like, no, you don't need to call me back. Like, tell me the story. Like, I like friends like that. Like, you can see me at my worst. When I just wake up in the morning and I got 2 ugly cornrows in my head, you know what I mean? Like, and you're not going to say anything and we just keep talking. Like, those are the friends I like.
That's what sticks. That's what matters, because it's not really how many people, it's who can you really rely on. I'm grateful for my sorors. I'm sorry, I'm a part of Zeta Phi Beta. Word. And I've learned that I've cherished my sorors so much more, especially the sisters I came in with. It's like there was 8 of us, and I learned that it's okay. And there's so many sisters, there's so many folks, but it's like, okay, you are all who I can pour into, and you'll pour into me the same way. And I feel like friendships now, you have to be able to pour into me the same way I'm pouring into you. It has to be an iron sharpen iron situation. Wood can never sharpen iron. I don't think there's any room for anything else at this age, because I don't know. I feel like you can grieve a friend very similar to how you can grieve someone who you were with.
Sometimes it's worse.
Definitely. Because it's like, I've spent so much time with you. Now it's
time, energy. I told you my deepest, darkest secrets, and now you just out in the world. We're not even like you just out in the world with my secrets. What you doing with my secrets?
It's like, you may have that eye contact moment, like, listen, I know what I know, you know what you know, but let's keep it cute and let's keep it to ourselves.
Right.
Because we agreed that this isn't that. Another thing that didn't come up. Well, while in your experience at FAMU, you spoke about love and you spoke about your first love. And for young women who may be getting ready to go to college and have to, you may run into a young man, however that may go, or a partner that you love. Can you speak about that? Because I feel like your freshman year, there's usually one person that you're dealing with, or that you love, or that, for me, it was I love them. They didn't know that I loved them. I was like, I love you. We're together, but you're doing too much for me.
Yeah. So it's funny because freshman year, I remember this couple. They were, I don't know if they were both from Ohio, but I remember at least one of them was from Ohio, and they were just all over each other, and they were always together. And I said, I am not gonna be like them. I am not getting hemmed up freshman year. That is not going to be me. And it was. And then it turned into me. And I was in this boys' dorm, speaking in the boys' dorm room. Like, then we moved to the same college complex. Like, I turned into who I said I wasn't going to be. I don't know. I don't know what I would tell. I guess I would tell a freshman or anyone just to listen to yourself and do not, they call them red flags, but I wouldn't even consider them red flags. Just always check in with yourself to see like how you're feeling. If something doesn't feel right or it doesn't sound right, then it's probably not right. But always check in with yourself to see how you're feeling. Just check in with yourself and don't betray yourself. If you feel like something's not right, then don't go along with it anyway. And just trust that if you don't go along with it and the person leaves you or whatever, then you'll find somebody else.
Facts. Because I don't know, I feel like when we're in college, everything seems so serious. It's like, this is only what's happening right now. It's like, my life is over. This is a small piece of a bigger plan.
I definitely thought that. I thought everything was so serious. So serious.
But I think when we're sent off to college, and for a lot of folks, like, okay, well, folks have worked really hard for me to get here, so I have to do the above and beyond. I know for me, I'm the only person who necessarily have gotten this far in my family, so I knew I was riding for the whole hood. Like, It was like, okay, there is no going back. Like, I can't, there's no room for a C or an F or anything like that, because these people have they've invested their money, their time. They're dropping me off places that they don't really know what I'm doing. But it's like, it's gonna pan out in the end. So I think that we already were given that stress, or I don't know, will you say it's responsibility that can manifest into stress, or is it just stress?
It can be stressful if you're not putting your own wants and desires first. Like, if you want to be a Spanish major, but your people from home are like, oh, you're not going to make any money doing that. And they're people who are paying for college. You know what I mean? Or they're the people who are sending you food and money and clothes you know what I mean? If they're your biggest supporters and they're the ones that are telling you what's not going to work when you want it to work, then yes, it becomes stressful. I felt like I couldn't fail, or I couldn't make a mistake because I went to Hopkins. Like, I was already I remember my dad used to say, we spent all that money for you to go to Hopkins and you're going to FAMU. So I already felt a little like, like, all right, I'm going to this black school after they sent me to Hopkins. So I felt a little pressure in that way. Like, I had to make something of myself. I had to do something because I took this risk, So.
But you went where your heart led you, even when you changed your major. It's not advantageous to be doing something, just doing it to other people, because it's going to show in the work. You're going to lose interest. Like, I was a business management major as well, just because it sounded cool. That was it. That's all I was exposed to. I had no business. I have no interest in what goes into that. You got to be really built and cut out for that.
But you don't know that at 8. I mean, well, maybe some people do. I didn't know that at 18 and 19. I just felt like, I know that if I can tough out these 5 years, I'll have an MBA and that'll be great, and I'll make a lot of money, and I'll have a place to live, and I will have a nice place to live, and I'll have a nice car, and
right. Survival is making these decisions. It's like, okay, I know what I can attain with this, so I'm just going to have to rock this out.
Yeah.
But then I feel like life and God will be like, well, how about we do this? What you like? Let me expose you to this person or this opportunity. And also in your college experience, I wanted to touch base with you because I think it's important for young women to have this conversation, especially not just because it's Women's History Month, but just in general. You were in college and you made a choice that was best for you. And for some young women, they may experience that, and that they may feel like, okay, well, maybe I need to go through with this. I'm not ready, but let me do this. But I wanted to applaud you because everything in that decision you made was for you. And I think keeping that mindset is important. Like, I understand you love me. This is cool. We could rock this out. We could do, you said you're going to change. This is fantastic. You're going to take care of me. You're going to take care of what we got going on in here. It's going to be great. It's going to be a cool little family. But I can't bank on that. And I can't bank on your word. So can you speak a little bit about, and it's up to you how deep you go into it, but the power in making a decision for you and how it has affected you thereafter and choosing yourself, and how you, for someone who may be making that decision or may have had to make that decision.
So when I was 19, I had an abortion, and at that time, I didn't feel all the things that you were saying. I didn't feel empowered. I didn't feel like I was making the decision for myself. I felt like there was no other option. I just felt like I had to finish school. I had things that I wanted to do. I wasn't ready. I didn't feel like I was ready to be a mother at 19 or 20. It didn't feel like I was I didn't feel strong when I made that decision. I just felt like I was backed into a corner. And that was what I had to do. Because my parents always told me that once you have a baby, like, your life is no longer about you. Okay. And so I knew at 19, like, there's still a lot of things that I need to do. Like, what am I going to, like, how am I going to have, because the guy I was with, he wanted me to have the baby. He was saying, babies are a blessing from God, and they are, because I have 2 of them. But at that time, I just didn't see it that way. I was afraid. I knew that I had to finish college. And now what you're saying is true. Like, I did choose myself. And sometimes, even to this day, I wonder if I made the right choice, having 2 children now and seeing how wonderful and how disciplined they've made me. Like, there are times I wonder who I would have become if I was a younger mom, if I would have developed that discipline earlier, or if I just would have dropped out of school. I don't know. But at that time, I felt like there was no other choice. And so I knew that we might break up, which ended up happening. And I just said, okay, but I still have to do this thing. Like, I can't, I can't be a mom at 20. That's just how I felt then. So sometimes doing the right thing, it doesn't feel like the right thing for you at that time. So you always have to that's what I'm saying about checking in with yourself. Like, what feels right to you at that time? It might not feel like a big, like, important thing or movement that you're, it just, sometimes you just have to do the next right thing for you. It's not like I was like thinking about who I was I was thinking about who I was going to become, but it didn't feel like I was making it important. I don't even know. It was important, but I didn't think about it as choosing myself. I didn't think about it as profoundly as you put it. I just felt like this is what I have to do.
And thank you for sharing that with us, and also sharing it in your book and your writing. And I hope for folks who are watching and who have had, just in general, to understand, like, you have to check in with yourself. You never want to move too hesitant. You never want to move in feeling or in anger. So any decision that you're making, take the time to look at it and examine it. And if for any young women who've had to make that choice, I know for me, it's like, I can't do that right now. I can't have nobody's child right now. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I know what's riding on. I know who's banking on me. So as a woman, folks have a lot of opinions of our body and what we should be doing with our body. Once again, it's our body. Whatever we say goes, because no matter how it went, it was still an experience that you had to deal with, that you have to do. Men don't have to think of it or carry it or deal with the same feeling in the same way. And I feel like as women, I want to encourage us to stand in our choices and stand in the autonomy of our body. No one else is in it but us. No one else is washing it but us. Okay. to be really frank, no one's changing these paths but us. So it's not to let anyone influence your decision of what you feel is right or what you feel is best for you. And I'd say that with a little bit more vigor because I have a niece in college and she's off in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember being off in the world, and it's like, I feel like these are gems that you need to know as a young woman as you're maneuvering. You got the final say. They think it's a man's world. It's truly not.
No, it's your world. It's your world because you have to live it. You're the only one living your world. And even if you allow somebody else to make a decision for you, you still have to bear the consequences of that decision that someone else made for you. So that's why I say, like, that's why I always try to check in with myself. How do I feel about this decision? Can I live with this decision? Because I'm just walking around with me, you know? So.
Without a doubt. Now we are coming to our last 5 minutes.
This went by really fast.
I'm telling you, a good conversation will do that. I wanted to ask you, what do you have coming up next? What's on the horizon for Stacy? What should folks be tuning into?
So I am writing my column for the New Haven Register and the other Hearst papers. I've been writing, working on like another book. So I'm excited about that. I'm not sure how they come together so like organically. So I've just been writing and I'm seeing how it's gonna come together. But yeah, I have been writing for the paper and then also, you know, for myself personally. So the essays are still there. I look forward to sharing essays again on Thursday mornings because that was really fun. So I'm hoping to do that again soon.
I was going to ask, is it still going down on Thursday mornings?
No, but I would love to. It was so much fun. So that is something that I really enjoyed. It was so scary to like put myself out there like that, but it was so like rewarding to see how many people connected with my stories like in real time. Because a lot of authors don't have that, you know, you just write a book and then you don't know, you know, how people are connecting with it. But I got to see in real time people connecting with stories. So I definitely would like to do that again.
Because you never know who's going through what or what someone else isn't willing to share. But by you sharing those stories and you being vulnerable and you taking that leap, for many people, it probably was like, okay, I got to follow in Stacy's courage. If she can share this and if she can talk about this, maybe I can deal with it a little bit better. So we have to give you your flowers for that, for being that powerhouse and being transparent. Because it takes a lot of courage to do that. It's not, you're not just ranting on Facebook. You said like, I'm oversharing. but sometimes that's needed when God puts it on our heart to share and to just be like, you want me to tell all the details? That's
exactly what it was. Like, why? But yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. But then, you know, like you said, I was getting a lot of feedback. People were like, please keep sharing. Even men were like, thank you for sharing this. Because they might not have considered it, you know, things that they were going through from a woman's perspective, or, you know, they might have had like you said, a niece or a sister or their mother might have gone through something like that. And now they, you know, are privy to that. Or maybe they went through something like that and they didn't have the words for it, you know. So, yeah.
So I want to thank you. We're going to have Miss Ife come back. And I'm just so grateful. Nothing is by coincidence. I'm glad that this was our first time fully meeting and we got to spend this time together today.
Me too. I hope we get to spend more time together.
Yes, please. I want to put my number in the chat, Stacy.
Okay. Yeah, please do. I put mine in there too. Oh, I can't hear Ife.
I was muted. Okay. I want to say it's so wonderful to have our Women's History Month celebration with you all, with the theme of resilience and how we cope, because your book is very revealing. And I purposely wanted Sha to speak with you because you're younger women. And the resilience that women's history You're making it now.
Hmm.
You know, at 61, I don't need to have my voice in this. And it warms my heart to hear that what you all are doing and how you are coping and your resilience and moving on and sharing the and young women getting this book. Like, people think they're the only ones going through something,
Hmm.
right? And then they seeing your story or hearing your story, reading this book, they'll definitely know they're not the only ones going through this, and that you get through it.
You get through
And
it.
you still have joy. Because look at you. Look at you. You're glowing.
Radiating.
Thank you. That's right. You go through it, and you can go. We can go through many things
Yes.
and
Yes.
still have joy.
And just to let you all know, there are there are other points in the book that they didn't cover. So you got to get the book. Okay? And we will put Stacy's information in our on our Facebook page. And also, I want to say thank you again, Stacy, for gracing us with your presence this
Thank you
evening.
for inviting me. I feel
you, and,
honored to be invited.
you and Shah had a very, very rich conversation. And so we thank everyone for joining us. There's a whole bunch of comments in our Facebook chat. We had a lot of visitors and people listening. We thank you for joining Elm City Lit Fest. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Next month is Poetry Month. Elm City Lit Fest we also have a book club on the second Sunday of the month that is not on Facebook Live. And our book next month will be, I got my camera. Okay. Will be Black Girl Magic, poetry by Black women. Okay, we're gonna keep this theme going. And again, we thank you, Stacy. We thank everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next month, Elm City Lit Fest podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.